Hey, everybody, welcome to your horoscopes for this week. These are the horoscopes for the week ending May 14th. And we've got a Friday the 13th coming up this week, too. We got all kinds of fun stuff going on. So let's go ahead and get right to it. And we're going to start as we always do with Aries. Now, Venus is still in Aries this week, will continue to be in Aries this week, heavily influencing your house of long journeys, which includes travel, which includes education. It basically is all about moving you forward. We don't want to sit still and be stagnant. We want to move forward. Venus's influence in this is actually very strong because with Venus influencing this house, you may find yourself leaning towards goals or moving towards goals that you have been wanting to move forward with for a long time. So things that you've put off because you just don't have the time or the money are going to become a much stronger influence. And that stronger influence leads to setting up a goal to make sure that whatever this is happens. So whether it is more schooling, whether it is traveling, it's time to start getting the money together or set up what you need to set up in order to get that moving. Jupiter is also moving full on into Aries this week, moving in a grand sextile with Pluto and Mercury, and very much influencing your house of money. Now we're talking about growth and expansion with Jupiter. When Jupiter is in your house of money, it's all about growth and expansion of your finances. So if your finances are a problem, this is a perfect opportunity to go ahead and fix that problem because the energy is there to grow and expand your ability to make money, your ability to save money, and even in many cases, your ability to put money away. And the Mercury retrograde that does start this week may seem like it's going to get in the way get in the way of that. However, that's not necessarily true. With the way that Jupiter and Mercury are lining up, even a Mercury retrograde works in your favor. And Mercury retrogrades oftentimes are associated with money and making changes in the way that you produce that money. So if one avenue slows down, it opens up other avenues to bring that money in. So that's what I have for you guys this week. I hope that resonates. Moving on to Taurus, that nasty square with Saturn ends this week. This square or this challenge between Uranus and Saturn has been going on for a few months now. And you guys are going to get a little bit of a break. Now, granted, both planets are going to go retrograde. They're going to move back into it in a few months, and then they're going to move back out of it again. But for now, you get a nice little break. And Uranus's influence really is about moving towards your goals in a non-traditional way, going against the grain in some ways. Uranus is all about power. It's about standing up on your own 2 feet. It's about being who you are, not necessarily trying to be like everybody around you. And honestly, that kind of influence is what you need in order to stand out, especially in terms of your career. If you don't stand out in your career, how is anybody going to find you? I mean, that's really what it boils down to, especially if you have a particular or specialize in a particular field where you want to stand out, above or more so, I should say. I don't want to say above, but more so than the other people in your field. You're going to have to give them a little bit of something to show them that you do stand out and that this is a job that you should be getting, that this is an opportunity that you should be getting more so than the others around you. Of course, spiritually, we don't want to argue with other people and we don't want to put other people down. But competition is part of being a human being. And when you're talking about your career, competition is everywhere. You don't want to let your personal feelings of I don't want to put anybody else down get in the way, because ultimately what you're doing is you're sacrificing yourself for somebody that's going to get that job anyways. The moon is of course still in your sign also this week, and in a grand sextile with Neptune and Pluto. And this creates a massive, really helpful aspect, especially in terms of money, making money. When you start to find that your intuition really helps you find those avenues of income that maybe you may not be seeing currently at this time. I find personally that when I try to figure something out, or I'm trying to use my brain and my logic to find an avenue of income, it takes me a lot longer than just allowing my intuition to show me the direction that I need to go in. Oftentimes our intuition doesn't always give us the avenue we want to go in, but it almost always gives us the avenue we should be going in. So definitely keep that in mind. Also, Pluto's retrograde is going to help leave plenty of time in your schedule to be able to develop these outside sources of income and really help you to be able to pull together all the information that you need and everything that you need to be able to move forward and move towards those career goals regardless of what they are. So it's a very positive and very helpful week for you guys as you go through this. Now, there may be a little bit of a difficulty there right at the end of the week as the moon moves into opposition with the sun. And that, of course, creates us a full moon. Now we have a full moon in Scorpio, which is your opposition sign. So do make sure that you are prepared for things to be a little bit more challenging, because a full moon does have a tendency to really kind of bite you in the boo-boo sometimes and shake things up. It's a wonderful energy to move forward, but it is also an energy that does have a tendency to really blow things out of proportion. So you definitely want to be prepared and aware of that. That's what I have for you guys this week. I hope that resonates. And we're moving on to Gemini. Gemini has Mercury, and Mercury is going retrograde this week. Now, the retrograde starts in Gemini, will continue through in Gemini for the rest of this week. And by next week, he's moving on to Taurus, where I guess he should be. I don't know. He really shouldn't be anywhere. To be honest, he kind of goes wherever he wants to go, as long as he stays, pretty close to the sun, right? He kind of has to. Now, he also is a part of this beautiful grand sextile with Neptune and Pluto, and of course the sun's influence being so close. Mercury and the sun are very much a conjunction right now. Being so close is also a part of this grand sextile. This is a very positive aspect, a very helpful aspect, specifically around making money and your career, and finding also the support that you need to be able to move forward in those career goals, which oftentimes is really important. Geminis are so analytical, they're so logical, and they spend so much time in their head coming up with all the theories and all the things they need to do, and all the ideas and backup ideas and backup ideas to backup ideas. Sometimes it takes another person to come in and say, okay, let's harness what we need to harness of your ideas, and then set everything that doesn't need to be done right now kind of on the side, so that we can access it later, but we don't need it quite right now. And that kind of support is really important for a Gemini who tends to be in 20 different places at once, at least. At least analytically, they tend to be in 20 different places at once. This is a very good aspect, and a very helpful one, even if Mercury is retrograde. Now, of course, I feel that Geminis actually do a little bit better during Mercury retrogrades, because let's face it, this is your ruling planet, right? So to me, the Mercury retrograde is all about the two sides of the Gemini, right? You have your direct side and you have your retrograde side. So this kind of influence may disrupt things just a little, but Geminis are disruptors. So you're used to it, right? So you know how to go with the flow with that. And as long as you're going with the flow, There is no possible way that you can fail. The only way that you can fail is if you stop moving forward. So that's what I have for you guys this week. I hope that resonates. Moving on to Cancer, not a lot of planet influence for Cancers this week, and that is not necessarily a bad thing. It's not necessarily a good thing or a bad thing, really. It just is what it is. But Cancers are starting to move their focus onto the internal self, and that can be very difficult for a lot of Cancers, specifically when we're talking about old emotional traumas, pains that you hold inside of you. Cancers tend to really hold on to that, like that's their badge of honor. Like this is mine and this is what makes up who I am. And that's not necessarily true. We choose whether those pains make up who we are or not. And it is a choice. Even if you're not making a choice, the fact that you're not making a choice is a choice. It's really a good time to take some time to really take stock of some of those emotional things that may be holding you back, maybe causing a lot of triggers, and understand why they're causing triggers. Understand where that fear is coming from and that pain is coming from, and release it and let it go. The truth of the matter is, there isn't a human being on the planet that isn't going to get away from some sort of trauma, some sort of abuse, some sort of person that is doing something to us instead of for us. It happens in every single life. We allow those people and those things that they did to us to hold us back. We don't get very far. And that's not growth. That's not moving forward. That's not human evolution. And human evolution is what it's all about. So when your focus is on this internal closet, we tend to try our hardest to ignore these old past pains that are coming up. We try our hardest to pretend that they don't exist. That does nothing. It doesn't help. It stays in the closet. It stays inside of you and it continues to rule you. And this week, you really want to sit down and ask yourself, do I want to allow that to continue to rule me? I'm almost positive that your answer is going to be no. I don't want this to rule me anymore. I'm going to release some of it. And then that way you start to feel a little bit better. You start to feel a little bit lighter. And some of those things are no longer influencing what you have going on today. So that's what I have for you guys. I hope that resonates with you. Moving on to Leo, it's a bit of a rocky start at the beginning of the week as the moon moves into a T-square with Uranus and Saturn. Now, Uranus and Saturn have had a squared aspect for a while, and that's going to kind of end this week. Unfortunately, not before the moon comes in to make it a much bigger aspect than it was previously before. When the moon moves into your sign it moved into your sign at the end of the week, but on the first 2 days of the week, Sunday and Monday, it continues to be in your sign. And when it lines up in this T-square with Saturn and Uranus, it creates this huge challenge, specifically because all eyes are on you, focus is on you. And it seems like you're in a position where your career and your relationships, the people around you, it just feels like either those two things are competing with for your attention, or it feels like you're being attacked on all sides. And relationships in your career, those are really big aspects of your life. And when you feel like they're both against you, the whole entire world is against you. But again, the moon is influencing this. You need to look at whether or not this is actually happening or whether or not it feels like this is happening because you felt this feeling before. When you felt the feeling before and you're still holding on to it, anything can feel like that when you think about it. You have one difficult conversation with your boss and one difficult conversation with a family member, and bam, the whole world is out against you. When really, it's not when you think about it. So you do want to be aware of how much your emotions or your feelings are playing into this problem, because we as humans, we do blow things out of proportion emotionally, and we do have a tendency to make things worse than they actually are. And you want to be aware of that and nip that in the bud before it becomes a problem. Once that moon moves out on Monday, moves into Virgo on Tuesday, things start to calm down and things aren't the emotional disaster that they felt like they were before. And that definitely will help smooth things out for the rest of the week and get you back on track in whatever it is that you're doing this week. Just make sure you take some time for you, because when your focus is on you, your focus is also on self-care, and self-care is the difference between success and failure almost every time. So that's what I have for you guys. I hope that resonates with you. And now we're moving on to Virgo. It's going to be a little bit crazy for Virgos this week, especially when the moon comes into your sign Tuesday, Wednesday, moving on out of there Thursday. As the moon moves into opposition with Neptune and Mars and Jupiter this week, you may find a little bit of an opposition. It feels like focus is very much on the past and is specific to money issues. This opposition is all about money issues. Mars, Jupiter, Neptune, they're all influencing your money house today. And you may feel like you're going through some really old money issues, as in like, here you are stuck in this place where you're broken, you don't have any money anymore, and this feels like the same old, same old. And that's really frustrating. Nobody wants to feel like they're just constantly in this boat that has holes in it that's just sinking the whole time. But that's what that broke feeling really feels like. However, the moon also creates this beautiful grand trine. Now, grand trines are really big positive aspects. And this particular grand trine is being formed right now between the moon, Pluto, the sun, and Mercury. Mercury is literally just going retrograde at this point also. Now, Mercury is also Virgo's ruling planet. So I really feel that Virgos do have a little bit more of a leg up with other signs in terms of how they deal with the Mercury retrograde. But sometimes things need to slow down. And for mutable signs like Virgo and Gemini specifically, you need things to slow down. With everything chaotic and going all kinds of different directions, you can't focus on the problem when you're being distracted by all this other stuff. This grand trine helps you to kind of sort of hone in what it is you need to focus on. And Mercury and the sun are all about your job, your career, changes that you may need to make there. And Pluto is all about your day-to-day schedule. Being in retrograde, it sort of, instead of being a very busy schedule, it sort of slows those things down a little bit, that, in terms of what's in that schedule, giving you plenty of space and room to figure out this problem. And everybody has problems that they need to figure out. And that's all there is to it. Virgos are excellent at figuring out these problems. Absolutely excellent. I have a Virgo son. When he has money issues, he finds money. It's all there is to it. He's willing to do whatever it takes to go out there and make that extra money. That's the kind of Virgo you need to be this week. Don't sit and think about it. Don't sit and worry about it. Don't make your stomach crazy over it. Just find a way out of it and get it done and move past that problem. So that's what I have for you guys. I hope that resonates. Moving on to Libra, the moon moves into your sign Thursday and Friday, Friday the 13th. That's good luck if you believe it's good luck. It's not so good luck if you believe it's not so good luck. So make sure that your head is in the right place. And of course, for you Libras, it is all about your head and what's in your head. Lots of ideas, lots of thinking, lots of problem solving, as Libras truly do. When the moon moves into your sign Thursday and Friday, though, however, it throws an emotional wrench into everything. And nobody likes it when an emotional wrench is thrown into things. I mean, that's just very difficult to get through, right? Especially for analytical signs like Libras. Now, with an opposition, the moon moves into opposition as it comes in with Jupiter, with Neptune, and with Venus. And this causes a bit of an issue, especially if the moon is in opposition with your ruling sign, Venus. Your creativity is tapped. All of the sudden, it feels like you can't move forward. You're trying to figure something out and you just can't move forward. And it causes a lot of frustration. First things first, don't overthink it. When you overthink the problem, you never find a resolution for a problem. Actually, overthinking just goes, it's like a loop. You loop around and you loop around and you keep looping around again back to the same thing, never finding a resolution. You're basically just continuing to focus on it over and over again without fixing the problem. That will only make you crazy. It doesn't help the situation. The good news is the moon does move into a trine with Saturn, and this is a very positive aspect. Saturn's ruling relationships right now, and finding the right people to help you solve these issues is really important. But you have to get past your I don't need help issues. Everybody needs help. And just because you're the person that normally is fixing things and helping things and jumping in, as Libras always do, that does not mean that you don't require help. Everybody requires help every now and then. You just have to kind of get past that feeling of, I can do this on my own, and reach out for that help. It's not just about somebody coming in and giving you another idea. It's about somebody coming in and helping to provide some structure for you. It's about somebody coming in and helping you, especially with Saturn being in Aquarius. This is another intellectual sign. This is another intellectual coming in and helping you weed through the emotional mess so that you can see clearly what you need to do. And we all need help with that. So don't be afraid or too stubborn, if that's the case, to allow that help to come through and help you see things the way you need to see them so that you can make the best decision that you need to make for you. That's always important. So that's what I have for you guys. I hope that resonates. Moving on to Scorpio, the week ends in a full moon in Scorpio. Now, for you Scorpios, this means that the full moon is definitely a heavier influence for you than anybody else. But I have also always noticed that Scorpio full moons tend to be pretty crazy and heavy full moons. You have a lot of weird stuff that happens. There's a lot of emotional stuff in many cases. And for you Scorpios specifically, this can be amplified by like a lot. And it's really difficult when not only are we looking at a full moon, but the moon is also in opposition with Uranus as well, and squared with Pluto. And this does create a little bit of an issue, specifically if you're really busy, have a lot on your schedule, and it keeps feeling like wrenches are being thrown in your schedule. Full moon influence, we're talking our emotions are already on high. You add any new frustrations into that, and that makes things even more difficult. So because of all of this, you want to make sure that you take a step back during this time, and not just on Saturday, but we're moving into the next week as well with that full moon. This is just the beginning of the full moon. There's another day or two of full moon influence as well that we do have to take into consideration. So you want to make sure that you're prepared, that you're ready, that you know that these things are going to happen, and that you allow some flexibility in your schedule to make sure that there is room for these little inconsistencies that tend to happen. There's also a Mercury retrograde going on right now, because that retrograde just started a few days ago, and that's always going to cause disruptions and delays and confusion and all kinds of stuff too. As far as that moon's opposition with Uranus, can be a challenge because right now you're sort of kind of on the cusp there of real focus on the home as well as focus on ideas for the home. But your work could be getting in the way of that. There's just too much work going on. You really can't focus on those things that you need to focus on at home, especially if these are things that, things that need to be fixed. This becomes a problem. You don't want to put off something that needs to be fixed, but you can't put off work either because you might get fired. Then you don't have the money to fix the problem, right? This is a little bit of a difficulty. This is definitely a challenge, but we're all used to being torn in two different places at once at the same time. Focus on what you need to focus on at work. Come home and put your focus where it needs to be on the home and whatever you need to fix there. Now, this is at the end of the week. Before the moon comes in, things are actually pretty smooth sailing. So it's more like you're focused on the home, you're focused on these repairs or these things that you want to change. And then all of a sudden you get to the end of the week and everything gets all crazy, right? Get as much done as you can at the beginning of the week so that at the end of the week, you have a little less strain, trying to get things done with all this other chaos going on. And that crazy moon that, of course, is going to come in and try and disrupt everything. So that's what I have for you guys. I hope that resonates. And we're moving on to Sagittarius. Sagittarius is all about family this week. And family is a wonderful thing, especially for Sagittarians. Sagittarians put a lot of energy into those that they love and their family. But it may seem sometimes that family does get a little bit overwhelming, and that there are some instances where it's not so much about that it's overwhelming. You just need to shake things up every now and then. You need to change things up every now and again. Sagittarians can't stand it when things are going the same way over and over again every single day. It's like, oh my God, it's like death for a Sagittarian. Sagittarians have just so much energy that they can put into so many different places. When they're stuck putting it in the same place all the time, that does get a little bit difficult. So this week, it's all about shaking things up. It's about adding new experiences into your week. It's about maybe veering off your schedule a little bit, not being so strict and rigid about your schedule, but maybe changing things up a bit. Eat somewhere else that you don't normally eat, or buy something at the store and try something new that you don't normally do, regardless of what everybody else in the family has to say about that. If they don't want to try new things, that's fine. That doesn't mean that you can't try new things. You see what I'm saying? The other thing is about how you approach your family, especially when your family comes at you with challenges or issues or things that you, unfortunately, are the one that's going to be fixed. A lot of times that can be very frustrating, especially if you're focused on something else. This week, it's really important to pay attention to how you react to those things when they come up. The way that you react to them is the difference between resolving an issue or making it bigger. We'll just put it that way. How you react to these situations is everything. So you want to stop, especially if it comes up to you as something that you're going to emotionally react to right away. You want to handle that reaction before it happens, to make sure that the outcome of that conversation doesn't blow up much bigger than you need it to, especially with the Mercury retrograde going on. Mercury is all about communication. And of course, being heavily influenced by Taurus, you may be finding a lot of people around you are having very stubborn communication, or you're having stubborn communication. Think about that. This isn't just an opportunity to understand other people. This is an opportunity to understand you and how you tick and why you tick that way. So you really want to be aware of how you react to these situations. When your kid comes up to you and goes, "Mom, I have this piece of paper from my school that, they were supposed to give you 2 days ago, and now you got to sign it at the last minute." You want to just lose your mind, right? And just scream at this kid, "Why do you always do this to me? Why do you always wait till the last minute to tell me these things?" Right? This time, you don't have to react that way. you have an opportunity to change the way that you react to that situation, so that maybe by changing the way you react to that situation, especially if it's happened over and over again, this kid might change the way they keep bringing you this stuff at the last minute all the time, right? These types of communications, they do create cycles, negative pattern cycles. You want to nip those negative pattern cycles in the bud as quickly as possible, so you can move on to a better communication pattern. So that's what I have for you guys this week. I hope that resonates. And we're going to move on to Capricorn. Still have Pluto in Capricorn. We'll continue to still have Pluto in Capricorn. And Pluto is still retrograde in Capricorn this week as well, continuing to, in some cases, disrupt your schedule a little bit. But as he moves, he continues in that grand sextile with Mercury and the Sun and Jupiter, and in some cases, Neptune. This actually opens up a lot of opportunities that maybe you weren't aware of in your schedule. And this is really kind of a big deal when you think about it. A lot of Capricorns are so stuck on what they got to do every single day and not veering away from that, that really they're denying themselves new experiences over and over again. It's really important, even for a Capricorn, to have these types of experiences, to have these new types of experiences, and yet you're denying yourself. By lessening your responsibilities in your schedule this week, you're leaving yourself open to being able to go out and fill some of those holes with things that you would like to do. You just haven't really gotten to it yet. And I don't know why most Capricorns are so good at denying themselves. They just are. They're another one of those signs that has this tendency to give to others what they should be giving to themselves. And so this is a very good opportunity to change that up a little bit. You've earned the right to give to yourself. Now give to yourself something that is really going to change your energy. It's going to make your energy more positive. It's going to give you more motivation. And it's not like we're taking anything away. It's not like you can't go out and make money. It's not like you can't continue to do all the things that you're normally doing. You're just adding a little bit of something in there to spice things up. And everybody deserves that, but nobody deserves it more than you Capricorn. So think about that. And that's what I have for you guys. I hope that resonates with you. And moving on to Aquarius, Saturn continues to be in Aquarius, but there is good news, but it's followed by bad news. So let's just start off with the beginning of the week, where Saturn's square with Uranus is actually a T-square when the moon moves into Leo, actually begins the week in Leo. And those first 2 days of the week are going to be a little bit difficult, specifically as your focus really is on relationships. And as you are squared with Uranus, whose focus is on career, and the moon, whose focus on self, it may feel as if you may be trying to build new relationships, and it just seems like there's so many things getting in the way of that. I'm telling you, as an Aquarius, there's always so many things getting in the way of everything. And our own brain is one of those things that gets in the way of a lot of things, right? While our brains aren't necessarily influenced in the stars this time, and we're talking about you getting in your own way. That's what we're really focused on here. You know what your responsibilities are, you know what you need to do, but a lot of times fear and how we feel, and of course Aquarians don't show how they feel, but it's there, it's very much very deep inside of there. How you feel and your own fear influence whether you move forward or not, specifically around relationships. And you may be finding within these relationships maybe that there are a couple that maybe you thought were really good relationships that really resonated with your higher purpose, and you may be finding that that's not necessarily the case. Does that mean that you have to get rid of them? No, it doesn't. But it does mean that you have to take stock of that relationship and look at it for what it is. Is it getting in your way? Are you not moving forward because of this relationship? That's really important to know. Are you being responsible to yourself, or are you being responsible to that person? In the perfect world, you should be responsible to both. But if you can't, sometimes you have to pick yourself as being the one that you're responsible to, right? Not necessarily the people around you. It really does depend on what your situation is. This also comes through heavily influenced with your career and those relationships possibly getting in the way of you moving forward in your career. Now, there's two things that come up with that. One, there may be a reason for it. Maybe those relationships are veering your focus away from your career because you need a break from it. But also, it could be because this is the challenge for you. You've got your career goals, you're moving forward in them, but you have some relationships that sort of come in and slow down the process. Are you going to allow those people to continue to slow down the process? If people really loved you, they wouldn't get in the way, and they would be totally okay with it, and they would be understanding. If they don't truly love you, then they will want to throw a wrench in what you're doing over and over again. That is important information and very easy to identify. So make sure you're looking at the situations in the right way and not necessarily trying to justify them, because justifying them is not helpful. The good news is that the moon's only influencing this and causing this huge aspect for a couple of days at the beginning of the week. And then after that, the Saturn and Uranus move out of that square, move out of that difficult aspect, and Saturn is now influencing you without the influence of other planets for a while, which is nice. Saturn does not line up with Aquarius. They're two completely different entities. But Saturn's lesson in responsibility to ourselves is a big lesson. And it's a lesson that we need. When you're focused on so many different things at once, you go on the back burner every time. You may not even mean to put yourself back there. It's just something that happens. You want to make sure that that isn't happening anymore, because the truth is, if you don't take care of you, you can't take care of anybody else. So that's what I have for you guys this week. I hope that resonates. And finally, Pisces still have Neptune and Mars in Pisces this week, still focused on making that money, and Mars energy moving towards making that money, which is good. Still have Neptune and Mars in that grand sextile with the Sun, Mercury, and Pluto as well. An aspect that is really, really helpful, specifically when you're bringing your financial goals and your career goals together and providing the time and space in your schedule to be able to do that. Now, goals are really important. Okay. They are one of the most important things in the success of life, period. If you don't create goals and then create steps in order to achieve those goals, you rarely ever actually achieve the goal. You have to make a goal plan. You have to make goal checkpoints. You have to make an ultimate goal and smaller goals to get towards that ultimate goal. If you don't do these things, it's very rare that you actually get to the ultimate goal, because you're not actually putting the work into it. When you create checkpoints towards that ultimate goal, you are also checking yourself that you are on track to make sure that you get where you need to be. I saw in a TV show the other day, somebody said, think about where you want to end up and don't start there, right? You never start where you end up. You start where you start. Where you end up is where you want to be. So obviously you can't start at the end. You got to start from where you are right now and work your way towards that goal. The other thing that is really important is that it keeps you on track and keeps you away from, I'm going to do this someday. Someday doesn't ever happen. Someday is a waste of time and energy. Someday needs to be thrown out the window, period. Okay. We're not doing things someday. We're doing them now. And if we can't do them right now, we're going to choose a time to when they are done. And this aspect is really helpful because it's helping you either get that goal plan started, or it's helping you to commit to that goal plan if you already have started it. That kind of influence really is motivating. It sets you on the right track. You still have Mars influencing you as you go. It would be a shame to waste all of this beautiful energy, Mercury retrograde or not. So that's what I have for you guys. I hope that resonates. And that's what I have for the horoscopes. Thank you so much for watching. As usual, donations are always appreciated, and you can find all of my donation links right down there in the description of the video. Thanks again for watching, and I will see you guys next week. Have a wonderful week, everybody.